Back Visions fans, Ready Player Will here. We have the Tower event going on this week with one of the accessory drops being the new Earth Ring. And so the question on the subreddit and what I've heard online is the ring any good? Well, we're going to go through some of the stats, the damage calculations, what it actually brings to you for resistance, and kind of see when it's best optimized. So just looking at the item by itself, this is one of many rings that get released alongside the Tower events. And typically the stats they get are pretty consistent, where you get 346 HP, 80 attack and magic, and then typically you get 60 defense and 6 spirit, but not this ring. The difference here is that the negative to it, and all of these rings have some sort of drawback. Typically it's a status ailment resistance down, but here it's actually decreased spirit of 10, which I think raised a lot of eyebrows, where people went, that sounds really bad, why would I use this? And I kind of thought the same until you actually look a little bit deeper. And the real big utility here is that you get an extra 20% lightning resistance as well as 15% earth resistance. So what we're going to go through right now is basically the damage calculation at a very high level to kind of see how these resistances all actually work and where it's best utilized. So for this next slide, please do not read the text. Keep the eyes here on me. I'm going to talk you through this. I'm just showing this for the sake of research, if you will. Feel free to pause and look at it. But basically, the way the damage calculation goes is that your attacker, you take their, we're going to use Ibarra for a lot of this example. So we'll take Ibarra's magic stat. There's maybe some extra buffs to that magic stat, and then you essentially have like a multiplier, which is like how much potency the damage attack is. If it's like 200%, then you get like man killer and earth killer, things of that nature. And essentially that number is what I call incoming damage, if that's the term I used for it, because the concept is that's what Ibarra has for damage, and it's essentially she sends it at the person she's attacking. That's the incoming damage to them. At that point, this is where the earth thing really kind of gets into the mud, is that once you are receiving an attack, you basically have 4 main ways to mitigate the damage. 1 is defense or spirit. 2 is the resistance to the attack type, so like slash, missile, magic resistance. 3 is an elemental resistance, so if you have lightning resistance and it's a lightning attack, you will help mitigate the damage. And 4, if you have unit resistance or AoE resistance. That's basically the 4 different ways you can mitigate that incoming damage. Now, the thing about all of those is that they are actually all functionally equal, meaning 10 spirit is the same as 10 magic resistance, or 10 lightning resistance is the same as 10 AoE resistance if it's an AoE attack. It's a multiplicative part of the equation, and I'll get to that again soon. And then finally, there is an extra 2 multipliers here. One of them is based upon the unit's faith and what your faith is, and then the very last is if there's an elemental advantage or a weakness. So in the case of Ibarra attacking an earth unit, there will actually be a 25% reduction in the total damage number. If it was lightning going against water, it'd actually be a 25% increase in damage. So that's where that last step comes in. Don't worry about this for now. The real simplified portion that you're going to have to kind of like wrap your head around here is that incoming damage, you multiply it by, for now, these 3 resistances. We're going to omit AoE and unit resistance, but basically 1 minus your spirit, 1 minus your magic resistance, 1 minus your lightning resistance, and then you multiply that number by the faith modifier and the elemental advantage or weakness. Don't worry, I hope you're still with me. I promise it's going to be super high level. So, couple examples here. We're going to do some damage calculations, and the assumption is we're going to take someone like Ibarra with 1,000 damage coming at, we'll say, Oberyn. That's going to be my character of choice here. And I have to use an earth unit because the only earth units can equip the earth ring. So the base comparison, if Oberyn had no ring on whatsoever, and again, we're assuming just like, let's say naked, forget statues, forget all that, you have no spirit, no magic resistance, no lightning resistance, well, that 1,000 damage gets increased by the faith modifier, and then the elemental advantage, it's actually reduced by 25%, so total damage is 1103. That's fine. We're going to look at now what that looks like if you have the ring equipped. So essentially, the spirit minus 10%, this actually amplifies the incoming 1,000 damage, where if you recall on the prior slide here, the way you look at it is 1 minus the spirit. Well, negative minus a minus is really positive, so it's 1,000 times 1.1, but here's the thing, the lightning resistance offsets that. So even though the negative spirit might increase the damage you're about to take, the lightning resistance will then bring it back down 20%. The net effect is that you do take less damage from Ibarra, 970 versus 1100. The best way to really think about this is you can net them together since they all have functionally the same importance in the equation, meaning it's really a net 10% resistance to any attacks that, any magic attacks that Ibarra does. Remember, specifically magic here. So 20 minus 10. But you might ask, all right, well, this is the ring versus no ring. What if we're putting on something like the knight armor, where obviously it seems very much skewed to resist magic attacks? Well, Versus magic-oriented gear, we're going to use the Knight Armor here. There's one thing to keep in mind. Although the Knight Armor has 20 Spirit on the barrier build, Ibarra, typically with her passive, has Spirit resist penetration, which means she ignores a certain percentage of your spirits. So she has 40% Spirit penetration, which means the 20 Spirit on the Knight Armor is really like 12% Spirit. And it does also come with 10% magic resistance on that piece of armor as well. So net total, you have 22% resistance against Ibarra's incoming magic attack. So the total damage is 873. And if you look at that compared to the ring, you'd say, well, the Knight Armor is a better piece of equipment than the Earth Ring. And that might be true, specifically, though, against Ibarra's magic attacks. And actually, here's the beauty of it all. You can technically equip both the Knight Armor and the ring at the same time. There's nothing stopping you. So if you were running Noctis as your primary tank, let's say, and you wanted to put the Knight Armor and the Earth Ring on him, you would certainly get the upside of both of them together. But this is where the wrinkle really falls into things. Number one, Ibarra does have some slash type damage attack as well, so you will not get that 10% resistance. But the thing to keep in mind is we're only looking at incoming magic damage at the moment. We're going to use an example here where, say, Cloud using Sharpshoot, really popular ability that he uses. If you were wearing the Knight Armor against Cloud using Sharpshoot, well, it does have 5 defense, but remember, Cloud has defense penetration, so it's really like 2% defense. It doesn't have any missile resistance on the Knight Armor, so 0, and no lightning resistance. So the net effect is you will take 1080 damage from Cloud in the same battle, versus if you had the ring. Again, the same concept. The ring, although it has 6 defense, he defense penetrates some of it, but you get an extra lightning resistance here. And sorry for the formatting of the table, but the net effect is that you only take 861 damage versus Cloud. A lot of numbers here. I'm going to break it down real simple for you. The TLDR about the Earth Ring, meant for use, obviously, against lightning and earth comps. Don't forget, 15% resistance against earth, but its maximum value is against non-magic oriented units. So if you're seeing a missile lineup like Charlotte, Fred, and Cloud coming to attack you, this is where the ring is truly optimized. We're about to get Lana released soon, who is a lightning magic user. So sure, if you see a lot of comps that are running Charlotte, Ibarra, Lana, Earth Ring may not be the one to go with, considering they do a lot of magic type damage. But the real utility value to this that people underrate is that it cannot be penetrated like other resistances can. By and large in this game, there is no such thing as lightning resistance penetration. That doesn't exist. But there is magic resistance penetration, spirit penetration. So although you may put on some pieces of equipment that you say, oh yeah, the Knight Armor has 20 spirit, that's great. It's not really 20 spirit, it's really 12 spirit. But that 20% lightning resistance will always be intact, no matter who's actually attacking you or what kind of passives they have. So there is some upside there. There is still some value, even in the broad scheme of things, when you're considering Earth versus Lightning, because by and large, the real top meta Earth units are very evasive, and more so than Light even. And Ibarra and Lanon will have some accuracy issues. So sure, even if you do take a 10% Spirit hit, overall, they might still be missing you in general, so it's really not a huge impact. And then finally, I actually think there probably might be some of the most value in Earth versus Earth, where Earth units don't really use magic by and large. It's really just Kilfin and Luell, and they're not really seen much, so you really don't have to worry about the 10 Spirit negative increase. But I would rather have 15 Earth resistance rather than 15 defense, because if you recall, there is a lot of defense penetration. Zazan in particular can get easily 80% defense penetration, so I'd much rather have the 15 Earth resistance, which I know will always be intact. And that's it about the Earth Ring in general. It's not a bad ring. It's definitely situational. Our Earth is in kind of a weird spot at the moment where I don't think they're very, very strong, but doesn't mean it's a bad accessory. There probably will be a time and place where you want to use it. This is typically optimal on a tank primarily, or whoever you want your tank unit to be. Hopefully this is informative. I enjoyed doing this presentation, and I'll talk to you all soon.